As a feminist, I wanted her to be liberated away from that awful place as far as possible. Justice served all the people who ever heard her jailed for eternity. But as a occasional lover of twisted relationships, I was eating this up. Hello, hello, hello. We're gonna talk about the hottest book on the blog, Alchemized by SenLinYu. Everyone's going crazy over this bad boy. It's so heavy. I could work out with this. This book used to be a Harry Potter fanfiction set in a universe where Voldemort won the war and all the good guys are dead, except for Hermione, who's been enslaved and forced to be in a breeding program. So, yes, this book is very, very, very dark. I will keep this video PG-13 and as easily digestible as I can, but please do check out all the content warnings, all the trigger warnings if you are deciding whether or not to read this book. Please take care of yourself. Please prioritize your mental health. Once upon a time, in its past life, this book used to be called Manacled. First posted on AO3, it exploded in popularity, becoming one of the most beloved fanfics in the Harry Potter fandom. And just like its predecessors before, I'm looking at you, 50 Shades of Grey. It caught the attention of the publishing industry and movie executives. Honestly, you go girl, SenLinYu. I can't even be mad because I used to devour fanfics religiously. Our story takes place in a fictional country called Palladia, which is pretty much like Victorian era England. Some people in this country are born with magic, but they don't call it magic. They call it resonance because they're cool like that. Resonance is created by binding the four elements of air, fire, water, and earth. The people here believe that resonance was intended as a gift by their god Soul to elevate humanity. People with resonance are able to manipulate metals and inorganic materials, so they're called alchemists. Within the alchemists, there are those who are able to manipulate more than just metals and inorganic materials. They're able to use resonance on other human beings. So they are called vivimancers. Now, people don't like vivimancers. Vivimancers are very much frowned upon in this society because their religion believes that the human body is sacred. So forget about all those cool superhero abilities like turning invisible, turning big, turning small, turning yourself into animals. None of that here. The only thing worse than being a vivimancer is being a necromancer, which is someone who uses their resonance on the dead, essentially reanimating dead bodies. The alchemists and the necromancers, they hate each other, and when there's hate, there's war. Unfortunately, the necromancers won, so now society is sad and gray and devoid of hope, and the necromancers are killing innocent people and turning them into necrosouls, which are basically soulless zombies that they can control to be used as servants or soldiers. So yes, a very bleak world. Our protagonist, Helena, used to be a healer for the Order of the Eternal Flame, the army that fought back against the necromancers and lost. Helena, she's very smart, she's super intelligent, but she's kind of an outsider because she's a foreigner and she looks different from everyone else, and she was a scholarship student, so she's not like other girls. But here, the trope actually works because her difference, her desire to belong, her desire to fit in, it plays a central role to the plot. We first get introduced to Helena when she was preserved like a pickle in a pickle jar. Huh? Let me explain. After the war, finished after Helena's side had lost, she was captured and imprisoned in a stasis tank for a long, long time. I believe about 14 months. So when she was finally pulled out of the tank, all the bad guys were extremely surprised. They thought she'd be dead by now. And when they checked her records, it was very confusing. She was marked for execution, but somehow she ended up in the stasis warehouse. So they brought in a Vivimancer to try to interrogate her. And what they found was that she had transmutation barriers inside her mind. So some of her memories were locked, even to Helena herself. Helena, this poor girl, she could barely speak after being a pickle for over a year. She had no idea someone had messed with her memories. She couldn't remember anything other than trying to save dying soldiers in the hospital over and over and over again, and watching her best friend Luke being killed in front of her. Now, Luke is a very important character. He was the leader of the Order of the Eternal Flame. He and Helena, they grew up together. They studied together at the Alchemy Institute, which was founded by Luke's ancestors centuries ago. So he's kind of like a Nepo baby, but a good one. The war was actually ignited by the assassination of Luke's father. Now, I'll try to keep Harry Potter references to a minimum, but when I was reading this, the idea of Dumbledore being Luke's father just felt a bit funny to me. Because Helena was the first ever case of someone who's had transmutations successfully implanted inside the brain, she was brought before the High Necromancer, the villain of the story, Moreau, the leader of all necromancers. Moreau was a being who looked so disgusting and revolting and deformed that he barely even looked human anymore. Despite defeating the Order of the Eternal Flame, he was still very much paranoid. He was worried that Helena's missing memories were some kind of secret weapons. He thought that those missing memories must be of vital importance for the Order of the Eternal Flame. And if the Eternal Flame had someone who possessed animancy, the ability to use resonance on the mind, then that could mean big trouble for the necromancers. The task of uncovering Helena's hidden memories fell onto Moreau's most ruthless general, the High Reeve, the one who murdered Luke's dad. And the High Reeve was none other than Helena's former classmate, her old rival in school, King Faren, a silver-haired, brooding hottie who's pure ice on the outside. Normally, I'm not a big fan of the enemies to lovers trope. I prefer boys with golden retriever energy, hot nerds who can play chess. But this book, oh my lord, oh Faren, it made me feel like I was 14 again and reading forbidden books under the cover. The Faren was the heir to the Iron Guild, the richest family in the country, because of course they were. Since most of the infrastructure in their society were built with iron, that's how his family managed to accumulate their wealth. Back in school, she was always number one, he was number two, but they never really interacted much or said anything to each other because she was an outcast. She was a scholarship student, and due to her close friendship with Luke, the Nepo baby, all the guild students, they disliked her. Well, now she was going to be his roommate. Well, I guess prisoner is a more apt description. Oh, I should also mention that Faren had a wife. He obviously didn't love her. It was an arranged political marriage. So Faren and Helena started having transference sessions where he would try to get inside her mind to uncover her secret memories. The side effects included severe brain fevers, inflammations. It had to be done sparingly, like once or twice a month, which meant that their time together was prolonged. All Helena wanted was to unalive herself. She was consumed with survivor's guilt. She believed that the longer she stayed alive, the closer Faren was to completing his task. She believed that if she was dead, then whatever secrets, memories her mind held would be safe from the necromancers. Also, the girl was very traumatized. She had been a pickle for over a year. All her friends and families were dead. Her best friend Luke had been killed in front of her. Her beloved school, the Alchemy Institute, was turned into a headquarters for the bad guys. And her pride and joy, her resonance was taken away from her. She had nothing to live for. So she attempted to throw herself over the balcony to end it all. Of course, Faren would not allow this to happen. He grabbed her and wrenched her back and made sure to monitor her at all times so that she did not have any opportunities to hurt herself. That's the kind of dynamics we're working with here. She despised him with a passion. But even from the beginning, you could tell that he didn't hate her as much as she hated him. Sure, he was never affectionate with her. He was very sassy. He acted like a real tough guy on the outside. But it felt like he hated the fact that she was in the Order of the Eternal Flame. He hated that she was an idiot to be a part of the resistance that was always destined to lose. And he seemed to be in pain all the time, especially in her presence. Remember this point, it will be very important later. Because she needed to be healthy enough for these transference sessions, she couldn't just rot in bed all day. She was required to take daily courtyard walks supervised by Faren. And our girl, our intelligent girl Helena, thought of giving herself hypothermia by lying on the cold ground. Of course, Faren was not okay with it, so he saved her from self-destruction. Overall, quality bonding time. As time went on, fragments of her memory started to come back to her, but essential pieces were still missing. And despite having her resonance taken away from her, despite wearing manacles, she was still trying to find Faren's weakness. She was trying to find his Achilles heel. Ah, girl, if only you knew. Once during a session, it was so intense that she lost consciousness. When she woke up, she couldn't remember where she was. She didn't recognize Faren, and when she asked him who he was, this man had the audacity to say that he was in charge of her care. And there's more, he caressed her cheek gently. See? He's not a bad guy after all. Would a bad guy caress your cheek gently? I think not. He also got her fancy new gloves and new leather boots so that she didn't have to be cold anymore for their daily courtyard walks. And he was all like, please do not mistake this for a sign of affection. Sir, okay, whatever you say. I could smell a tsundere from a mile away. If you were reading this book, you would feel so conflicted. It's undeniable how horrendous her circumstances were. But they had so much chemistry and, dare I say, cute moments together. So much quirky bantering, flirting. I felt like a psycho for shipping them. As a feminist, I wanted her to be liberated away from that awful place as far as possible. Justice served, all the people who ever hurt her jailed for eternity. But as a occasional lover of twisted relationships, fictional twisted relationships, I was eating this up. I know that some people argue that this is not a love story. I think this absolutely is a love story. This might not be a romance in the most traditional sense. This is definitely not a portrait of a healthy relationship. You should not aspire to have a boyfriend like Faren. But it is a story about the human capability to love, even in awful situationships. But it is a story about the human capability to love even in awful situations. That despite who you may be, despite having powers, magic, the ability to perform literal miracles, you could still catch feelings for the wrong people. And isn't that just super relatable? After a few months had passed, Helena was brought before the High Necromancer once again. He looked even more disgusting and shrunken than the last time she saw him. He examined her memories, especially interested in her imprisonment at Spirefell, the name of Faren's estate. And he came to the conclusion that she was the Ennemancer, that she was the one who erased her own memories. That even now, with her resonance gone, she was still fighting back, she was still resisting subconsciously. Here, it was also revealed that Helena was responsible for destroying a large laboratory that contained much of their experimental research before she was captured. So, in contemporary lingo, she was a certified baddie. Even in such a stressful situation, she figured out that Monroe was dying, that he was deteriorating, and that his power source was his most elite soldiers, the Undying, the ones whom he had given regenerative powers to, which included Faren. Now, the idea of having the power to heal super quickly, grow back a limb or two, being basically Wolverine, sound fun, but not when your boss is a bloodthirsty dictator who likes to torture people for fun. So Helena started to feel sorry for her captor just a little bit after witnessing and imagining all the suffering he must have endured under his boss. Even though Helena hated Faren, she was saved again and again by him. There was this party that Aurelia, so Faren's wife, threw, where she invited a lot of necromancers, and Helena had the misfortune of bumping into Aurelia's paramour, an evil man named Lancaster, who tried to kidnap her and have his way with her. Disgusting. Luckily, Faren found them in time and he disemboweled him. When Lancaster had disappeared, Faren turned towards Helena. His face was rigid with fury. "You idiot, why did you come out tonight?" Helena just looked at him. She thought she should say something. What she tried to tell Lancaster. "Faren always comes for me," she whispered. A few days after this incident, Helena was in need of rescuing again, this time from Aurelia, when she found out that her lover, Lancaster, was using her to get close to Helena, and her husband, Faren, killed Lancaster because of Helena. So Aurelia had a lot of resentment towards Helena. She wanted to kill her. And the girl did not mess around. She pulled one of Helena's eyeballs out of the socket before all the iron bars on the walls, on the floor, torn her away from Helena and strangled her. All of this was, of course, controlled by Faren, who was not home at the moment because he was on a business trip and because he was monitoring what was going on inside the house at all time. When he saw that Helena was badly hurt, he rushed back following Helena's instructions because remember, Helena used to be a healer. He managed to put the eyeball back into place and restore her eyesight. He threatened to kill Aurelia if she ever dared to go near Helena, speak to her, or even step foot in that part of the house ever again. And he meant every word. His hands were soaked in blood, and he was not afraid of getting his hands dirtier. Just when Helena was developing feelings for Faren, their situationship? Well, I guess it's more of a confusion ship. Oh my gosh, it's a Stockholm syndrome ship. Whatever this thing between them was, it took a turn for the worse because she was going to be enrolled in the repopulation program. That's where the Handmaid's Tale element comes in. In the repopulation program, women with resonance were forced to have babies with necromancers so that their babies with resonance could be used as living vessels for the necromancers. Since Helena was an ennemancer, the rarest of them all, Monroe wanted her to have a baby with Faren so that he could steal their baby's body to prolong his own life. Both Helena and Faren had no other choice. They had to do it. And the experience was very painful for both of them. It was painful for me too as I read it, but I think that the author handled it with care. What should have been a tender and intimate experience was like torture for them. And immediately after the deed was done, Faren went to the bathroom and threw up. For their second time together, Helena was fed an aphrodisiac pill by the evil doctor who did her monthly checkups and was running the repopulation program. So this pill was doing things to her body. Now her mind was saying, no, 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 but her body was saying, yes, yes, yes. This is a cliche, but it works. The contradiction between the mind and the body leads to such agony and angst. Ah. Afterwards, she didn't see him for 5 days until the day of the ascendance. Now, the ascendance was basically like the day of the full moon. People with resonance would get intoxicated and drunk from the glow of the moon. So on this day, Helena was very worried about Faren. She thought that he was dead because members of the Undying had been mysteriously murdered one by one. Don't worry, he was not dead, he was just very drunk. His eyes were dark, ringed in glowing silver. Her pulse fluttered against his grip as he stared down at her. It was no wonder the servants had disappeared. Maybe everyone else knew to hide from him on these nights, except her. Oh, Marino, his thumb trailed along her neck, following the scar below her jaw. If I know what pain you'd cause me, I never would have taken you. He sighed, and she could smell the liquor on his breath as his head dipped closer. She had no idea what he meant, if she was supposed to apologize. But at this point, I suppose I deserve to burn. I wonder if you'll burn too. His face was so close, the words brushed against her lips, and his mouth crashed against hers. It was a punishing kiss. Ah, the yearning. After they kissed and broke apart, Helena was horrified at what just happened. So horrified that she ran away to her room and started banging her head against a window. Once again, Faren had to come and save her from hurting herself. She'd been receptive to Faren. He'd come towards her and kissed her, and she had let him. In the moment, it hadn't even occurred to her to push him away. Instead, she'd melted at the warmth of being held. Trapped in Spirefell, she was latching onto any glimpse of kindness, any sense of tenderness her mind could fabricate. But it wasn't kindness. He wasn't kind. He simply wasn't cruel. He wasn't as monstrous as he could be. And for Helena's fracturing mind, an absence of cruelty was sufficient solace. For her starved heart, it was enough. 2 weeks later, when the evil doctor came back to check up on Helena, they found out that Helena was, you guessed it, pregnant. This was not so great news, and Helena started having a mental breakdown. Faren became protective of Helena during this very fraught period. He even gave her a present, a book on the maternal condition, because Girlie was an academic. Girlie liked to read. Helena begged him not to let them hurt her baby, their baby, this baby that was going to have 50% of his DNA. And he promised her, but she didn't believe him. She thought it was an empty promise, that he was just saying whatever he needed to say to pacify her. As the weeks went on, Helena got weaker and weaker because this entire time she had been using her resonance to suppress those memories, and now she did not have enough strength to both maintain the transmutations and support the growing fetus inside her body. Eventually, it reached a boiling point where all of her memories came back to her, everything flooding back to her all at once. The narrative shifts to 4 years ago, before the war was over, when everyone in the Eternal Flame was still alive, when Luke was still alive, when her best friend was still alive, and it is revealed that... Are you ready for it? Are you ready for the big reveal? Are you sure you're ready? Drum rolls, please. They knew each other. Faren and Helena were more than just former classmates. They were lovers before she ever became his prisoner. It turns out that Faren had always hated Moreau after he tortured and killed his mother and forced him to kill Luke's father. So he always wanted to take revenge on the High Necromancer. And he thought the way that he could do that was to spy for the Order of the Eternal Flame. However, he had a condition for them. The condition was that they had to give Helena to him. And because Helena was such a good girl and she would do anything to help her friend Luke win the war, she agreed to it, and thus began their long and tumultuous liaison. He saved her, she saved him, he saved her again, she saved him again. They just kept going back and forth. I genuinely lost count of how many times they each saved one another. Remember how they used to be competitive academically back in school? Well, now they were competitive over who could save each other more. I went into this book curious about how good it had to be to inspire a massive following and a subsequent book deal. I wanted to know if I could appreciate this book on its own merits, removed from the universe it was derived from. I wanted to know if I could come to love the characters without having any attachment to the characters they were previously. And what I discovered is a powerful story on the transformative power of love, a reflection on redemption in the most broken places, and hope on the darkest nights. I cried, I laughed, I squealed, I stayed up late to finish this. I think the moral of the story is don't get caught by bad guys. But if you must, number 1, make sure he's hot. Number 2, make sure he's secretly in love with you.